In today's video, we're getting well acquainted with Winifreds Well. Will's is not so well, and we'll be exploring an old heritage site really well, we hope. Well, you two, what have you got to say about that?
Hello and welcome to Postcard to Mind. I'm Rachel.
I'm Wills.
And well, let's get exploring.
Sorry for all the well gags. It was, well, too easy. Right, you two, get a move on. You've got a pilgrimage to pursue. We'd come to St Winifred's Well near Holywell to learn all about the miracle that occurred here. The first miracle upon entry through the gift shop was that it only cost £1 to get in. Well good. Sorry. Changing rooms. It's looking a bit parky for a dip in there. Let's get inside and see what's happening. Ooh, something momentous and very holy must have happened here. Go on, I know you're dying to. Tell us something about where we are, Rach.
St Winifred's Well claims to be the oldest and most continually visited pilgrim site in the whole of Great Britain. It's also Grade 1 listed and an ancient scheduled monument. But why is it? And who is Winifred? Let's tell you the story. Winifred's story takes place in the 7th century, although it wasn't actually written down until the 12th century.
Winifred was born to a noble family. She was pure and lovely on the inside, and a very beautiful and attractive woman.
It is said she attracted many suitors, but she was under the tutelage of her uncle and was set on becoming a nun. Winifred spent her days studying the scriptures and herbalism.
One day, Caradog, a Welsh chieftain, came to her uncle's abbey and demanded, not asked, for Winifred's hand. He was a proud man with a sadistic streak.
Winifred, of course, said no, as her path in life was already chosen.
Caradog was furious and humiliated and left vowing his revenge.
One day, while Winifred was bathing in a nearby stream, Caradog surprised her. She put up a brave fight and escaped and ran towards the abbey. She was almost there when he caught up with her, and with one swipe of his sword, he beheaded her. As Winifred's head hit the floor, a spring opened up and soon became a torrent of water, carrying her blood down to the abbey.
Her uncle was devastated and cursed Caradog, who just smiled and sauntered away.
Now here's the miracle part. Her uncle sewed her head to her body that evening, and by the next morning there was life in her once again, and the scar from the sewing around her neck was just a faint line, proving that the water was holy.
Winifred went on to become a nun, and before her uncle left the abbey, he declared that whoever sat on this stone seat and thrice asked God for a benefit in the name of Winifred, they would receive it, if it was for the good of their souls. I wonder what he's wishing for. Hey up, he's having a go of the holy water.
Now, it is possible, if you book, to bathe in the waters, but it looks a bit cold today with all the snow about. And also, there's a tap, and you can take your water home. I bought a jam jar, because poor old Wills, he's not been so well lately.
Poorly.
He's got a bit of a cold. He hasn't got the COVID, we did a test on him, but he's got man flu, and I was going to stick a bit in his bath later on and see if the holy water worked. But the tap's frozen, so it's not to be, so you're going to have to suffer, lad.
As it turns out, we should have dipped our jam jar in the spring and just robbed some anyway, as Wills took a turn for the worse this very evening. They have a small museum attached to the gift shop, which is really interesting. It tells the story of Winifred and then how the site has evolved over the years. This wooden chest dates from the 13th century, and this fragment of wood is from a casket dating from 800 AD. Absolutely amazing. What an incredible place, and so many people have claimed to be cured here. Let's hope it sorts out Will's cold. The buildings on the site are absolutely incredible. This is Winifred's Chapel. It was built over the well in 1490. It sits in the grounds of St James's Church, another 14th century church. Winifred, you've been fascinating, but it's time to head down the valley to see how your spring shaped industry in this area.
We're all done at St Winifred's Well, and we've come to Greenfield Valley Heritage Park. We think there's some old disused industrial buildings or things like that. We're just going to take an explore. Why don't you come with us?
Even though we live so close by, We'd never explored here until today.
How good was that well?
That was absolutely amazing, and if you believe everything about the legend, it was Winifred's head falling off causing that spring that made the river flow down this valley and was the cause and the use for all of this industry.
Blimey.
Let's take a look.
Okay, so technically her head didn't fall off, but the spring has shaped this valley in so many ways.
During the 8th century, pilgrims began to travel to Holywell, drawn by the story of Winifred and the healing powers of the spring. To look after the number of visitors, monks built a monastery at Basingwerk in 1131.
The abbey was founded by Ranulph de Gernon, the 4th Earl of Chester. The abbey became part of the Cistercian order in 1147. The best preserved part of the abbey is the mid-13th century refectory, with lancet windows and lovely hooded moulding. The monks were the first to harness the power of the valley's water, using its power to grind corn and treat wool from their flocks of sheep. Then we met this little fella.
No, you don't care about this.
We think he was annoyed that his name was Rita.
Oh, hello. You're cute. We always find a nice dog.
We certainly do. By the beginning of the 18th century, the valley was a hive of industry. This school opened in 1877 to teach the children of the industry workers. Onwards? And what are you looking at? You're a bit wooden. Right, let's go find us some mills. Lovely. Winifred's head didn't half cause a torrent. There's even ducks swimming in it now. Ah, that looks like a mill. Do you fancy a bridge twirl, Rach? Not really then. All this water runs down to the River Dee, which made this the perfect place for industry. A dockyard was built at Greenfield for shipping goods to Liverpool. Early industries in the area included lead smelting, which was not popular as it was so poisonous to plant and animal life.
At the beginning of the 18th century, quite a few more successful industries were operating in the area, including 3 cotton mills and 2 snuff mills.
What's a snuff mill?
I'm glad you asked me that. In the 18th and 19th centuries, sadly, Flintshire played a key role in the slave trade. Goods from Britain were shipped to the Africas in return for slaves, and then slaves were shipped to the West Indies in return for goods such as tobacco, sugar, rum and cotton. And a snuff mill is where they ground the tobacco leaves to snuff.
Glad we cleared that up. These buildings have such a story to tell. By the 1780s, copper and cotton factories dominated the valley. Wooden ships sailing and trading in tropical waters were always at risk from damage by burrowing sea worms. The hulls of these ships would be covered with copper sheets. With thousands of British ships trading all over the world, copper sheets and bolts made at Greenfield were essential to the economy and brought success and growth to Holywell and the valley. The early 19th century saw a decline in the copper industry due to cheaper imports from abroad, and the industry which had brought such prosperity to Holywell slowly faded away. As the old industries declined, others took over, but never captured the boom of the late 18th and early 19th century. The cotton trade became highly competitive, and even with the introduction of steam power, the Greenfield mills were too small and couldn't compete with the larger Lancashire mills. What is left now is a footprint of an incredibly industrial valley. It's all too easy to sit and imagine this place in the late 1700s, alive with the sounds of the working mills, children in the local school, and life being lived amongst this hive of industry. All stemming from the story of Winifred, whose head opened up the holy spring and created the fast-flowing water that runs down the valley to the sea. There was so much more we could have explored, but being January, the light was going and it was time to make our way back. As well as being a window to the past, Greenfield Heritage Park also has some beautiful walks and nature to see. This won't be the last time we visit here, as there is still so much to see and do. The North Wales Pilgrim's Way also starts here. This is a spectacular 135-mile-long walking trail across North Wales, from Basingwerk Abbey to Bardsey Island. Sadly, by now, Wills was feeling pretty rotten, and we had to head home. Maybe it wasn't the man flu after all. And in the words of Spike Milligan,
I told you I was ill.
You did, and a couple of days later, he tested positive for the COVID. Yeah, but you're on the mend now.
I'm feeling much better now, and thank you for all your kind comments.
And somehow, I didn't get it.
No idea how.
No idea how, and we'll never know. Would Winifred's Well have cured the COVID?
Well, we'll never know.
No, sticking your hand in it, that didn't work.
Nope.
But having a bathe in it, if I could have stolen some and put it in your bath, would that have worked? We will never know.
Who knows?
But Greenfield Heritage Park,
Good, wasn't it?
loved it. I've never been there before.
Nope.
You think you have?
I went many years ago, yeah.
I'd like to go back in the summer when the exhibitions are open. Nothing was open. You could still get in all the ruins. You could still walk around. You could still see the machinery, read the boards. But apparently it's a lot more active and interactive when everything's open. So I definitely would like to go back in the future.
We've done the Abbey before, though, haven't we?
We have,
and
yeah.
We'll feature that in another video.
We have indeed. But let's link a video to this one.
Which we do.
Let's link Harlech.
Oh, it's a good one. Beaches and castles.
Yeah, if you're fancying a bit more postcard and a pint after this, have a little mosey of Harlech, beaches and castles and a drone.
Or any of them.
What more could you possibly want? So we'd like to take this opportunity to ask you to like this video, if you would. Helps the channel.
And if you'd subscribe to us, that would be wonderful.
And leave a comment. We do love to read all your comments.
We do.
Has your head ever accidentally fallen off and you've sewn it back on? You know, has it worked for you? But with our cup of tea
and my non-alcoholic lager, because it's still dry January, kids.
Yeah, we love to say,
cheers to the good times.
Why did the blind nun fall down at St. Winifred's?
I don't know.
Because she couldn't see that well.
Oh.